This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese, and I'm here in my home. Of course, we're under lockdown, and I'm here with Nikki Redcliffe, who happens to be my neighbour, but she's no ordinary neighbour, that's for sure. Now, why are you different, Nikki?
Well, why am I different? We're all different.
I know, but you're
about
especially different.
I think that your eye was drawn to me because of my clothes.
Indeed, yes.
And
it takes one to know one.
Exactly. So you saw me wandering around the gardens, dressed in probably a 1950s frock.
I think you had a glass of champagne in your hand.
That probably was also interesting for you. And we started talking. And that's brought me here today.
Right. Well, how did you get into fashion?
I strongly believe that I was into fashion almost as soon as I could walk. Some of my clearest childhood memories are of my dresses. My mother made most of my dresses. I continued to become, I turned into a complete clothes and fashion addict, certainly, in my teenage years. All my pocket money, all my birthday money went on clothes.
What did you buy? Are you talking, what decade are you talking about?
Well, I became a teenager in 1970.
Okay,
so
okay.
Born in 57, and therefore my teenage years really were the 70s.
So the 70s was sort of hippie and long and flowers in your hair and bell bottoms and...
It evolved through the decade. I would say at the beginning of the decade, it was all Laura Ashley, slightly nostalgic.
More kind of floral.
Floral, quite a lot of floral, and that was the epitome of fashion.
Really?
And then...
And long skirts.
Quite long. There was also a big 40s revival during the 70s. So a lot of 70s clothes have quite a 40s look about them anyway. And then probably the biggest fashion influence of my life is when I got a Saturday job at Bieber.
Right.
And that was really, and that also fused into music. And so David Bowie, Roxy Music, all the glamour side of music. And the glamour, I would say Bieber was about the most glamorous shop that has ever existed.
And how old were you then?
I was 16.
16, because you know that I lived in her house for 20 years, or rather bought it from Barbara Hulaniki.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is a strange coincidence.
Absolutely.
And it's now known as Bieber House, because I named it Bieber House, but when
it should have a blue plaque.
When I bought it, I said to my husband at the time, "Shall we call it Bieber House?" And he said, "Don't be so pretentious." So it was 164 Kensington Park Road. Yeah. When we came to sell it 20 years later, I said, "Shall we call it Bieber House?" He said, "Yes." And it was sold with one phone call.
Yes. Not surprisingly, a very influential lady in fashion.
Yes, well, she's in Miami now.
Yeah, fashion, interiors, lifestyle, photography, product design, you name it.
Yeah,
hugely
and I didn't know it, but she studied art in Brighton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I missed the exhibition. I was most upset about that. Yeah. So, okay, well, I know you've got, 30,000 followers on Instagram or something. How did you get into that?
Oh, well, that was Instagram.
Obviously by accident.
Completely by accident. I joined up with Instagram, mainly because my daughters told me that's where they posted pictures, and we were all living far apart, and I missed them. I wanted to see pictures of what they were up to. And anyway, it seemed that Instagram was the thing. So I joined up, and for about the first year, I wasn't quite sure what to do with Instagram. It seemed a little bit like Facebook, but I couldn't quite get my head around it. And in fact, I happened to know that after just over a year, I'd made 76 Instagram posts and I'd got 86 followers. So it wasn't really going anywhere much. And then I decided...
But were you trying to get it
No, I wasn't
going?
trying to get lots of followers. I was perfectly happy with it. But then, by then I'd started following people who were into vintage fashion. So I discovered there was a whole world, a whole community of people who buy it, sell it, wear it, love it, write about it, photograph it. And I was following all these people, and I suddenly thought, well, I seem to have quite a lot of vintage clothes myself, and perhaps other people would like to look at my wardrobe as much as I enjoy looking at theirs.
Yeah.
So I made a conscious decision to just concentrate on the wardrobe.
What about jewellery?
I have...
Vintage jewellery, I mean.
I have quite a lot of jewellery, but it's not my... The thing is, you can't focus on everything.
Yeah.
And mine, it's mainly the clothes and the hats.
Yeah.
I have jewellery that is sympathetic, but it's not the main focus.
Right.
There are people who really only collect shoes or really only collect vintage underwear or something. So you can't.
Met one of those.
So you can't have everything.
Yeah.
So the jewellery generally has to be in sympathy, but it's not my main obsession.
Yeah, it is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hats.
Yes. Well, any headgear for you. You like hats, turbans.
Well, now
scarves,
I've gone into
everything.
turbans, but it used to be berets or what they call toque, but now I only, since 2013, it's only turbans. I do have a few vintage ones, but not many.
Yeah, the turban is a godsend. On days when I haven't washed my hair.
Yes. So, anyway, you were discovered, obviously, by R.E. Seth Cohen, and
Well,
that added the numbers, no doubt, because, of course, he was the creator of Advanced Style.
Indeed. That's probably what kick-started my Instagram journey and took it into a different
Platform.
sphere.
Yeah.
It was because I was already a great admirer of R.E. Seth Cohen, and I'd seen the documentary Advanced Style, and I was following him on Instagram, and I started using the hashtag Advanced Style on some of my photos. As I entered my 60th year, so I was actually 59 at the time, and he really only features people over the age of 60. But I thought, okay, we'll get in a little bit early. And he reposted...
Join the club.
He reposted one of my photos, and I suddenly had thousands of new followers. And that was the start of... It's been a sort of fun Instagram journey. I have really enjoyed it because it wasn't deliberate, it wasn't expected. I wasn't going out to get a lot of followers and make a fortune. It's a hobby. It's a personal project.
So where's it leading to? Or where do you want it to lead to?
I don't even want it to lead anywhere. I certainly don't want to be what's called an influencer, because basically influencers get paid or get given things to promote on their Instagram page.
Like branding.
I absolutely don't want to do that, because I'm only interested in wearing my clothes, really. That's the fun I get out of it. I'm not trying to make a living out of it. So it's really the connections, talking to other people, sharing an enthusiasm.
But have you met any of these other fashionistas? Most of the ones in
people.
New York, of course.
I haven't met any of the New York crowd, but the people who are particularly into vintage, I've met quite a lot of them.
Are they in England?
Yes, the UK crowd, because there are events where people go and wear their clothes and buy new clothes. Often there's music and dancing to go with.
You like to dance as well?
I do like to dance, but it's...
What kind of dancing?
Well, vaguely sort of 40s swing, but not with any degree of expertise.
A sort of Lindy Hop type.
I aspire to Lindy hopping, but it's a lot more difficult than it looks very difficult, and believe me, it is very difficult. But even if I'm not dancing, I love seeing good dancers.
Yeah.
And it's magical to see a dance floor, with a great band playing and a dance floor full of people either jiving or
and I see from your bio that you've been the best dressed lady. Where was it?
Oh, at Goodwood Revival. That is a wonderful event, and if you haven't been, please go to Goodwood Revival. It's been cancelled this year, of course, due to coronavirus, but it'll be back, and that combines classic motor racing.
Yeah, motor cars.
And everybody dresses up, and it is the most wonderful spectacle. And they have a best dress competition, and yes, I've won a few times. My daughter's won once, and now I think we're banned from entering anymore. Now I've been asked to judge, so that's fine.
Well, we may not have enough time today, but you could have shown or honed in, if you had it quickly to hand, what you were wearing that day. But
yes, I do have somewhere quite a lot
yes,
of
somewhere.
photos.
Oh well, we'll have to do it in
Goodwood.
part 2. Thank you very much, Nikki.
A pleasure.